Hey everyone, welcome back to Cooking with Calvin. Today we are going to get set up for the best breakfast experience that you could have, which is cinnamon rolls at home, fresh from scratch. And we are going to make the biggest, fattest ones that we could possibly make. So, lots of ingredients today, all portioned out already, but I'm gonna go from my right to left. We have it categorized as this is going to be for the dough. This is the filling, and this is the frosting. So we break it up to 3, and then from there I just have my giant bowl of salt. We're just gonna have a pinch of salt from there. And then from there, I have 5 1/3 tablespoon of melted butter. You don't want it hot, just melt it ahead of time and then leave it to room temperature. I have active dry yeast. I have 1 cup of granulated sugar, 2 eggs, and 4 cups of bread flour. Now for the filling, I have equal parts cinnamon and granulated sugar, and then 1 full cup of melted butter. And then for the frosting, we're gonna add a dash of vanilla. We're going to have 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese. We're going to have 2/3 of a cup of butter and 2 cups of confectioner's sugar. Now the only thing we don't have on the table is our milk. So our milk is going to be for our dough. And what's really important about this is that we need this milk to be somewhere between 110 to 115 degrees. Because that's what you're going to use to activate your dry yeast. So you need it this like ambient temperature where it can reactivate and start to develop. So we take, it's 1 cup of milk. You want to make sure that it's just nice and warm. You don't want it too hot, and also you don't want it too cold. So our first step is going to be just to drop that into there. And then we're just going to give that a little bit of a mix. I mean, you'll smell it instantly. The yeast will start to activate. And stir that, and then maybe like 1 to 2 minutes. Just let it sit there. Kind of let everything activate. So, what we can also do is we can start to aerate our flour. That's the same method that we've been using this whole time. Whenever we're using flour, dry goods, anything like that, we just want to kind of aerate it a little bit because it's going to make it a little bit easier to mix. Once we have it nice and aerated, just dig out the center a little bit. And we're going to add all of our sugar, that dash of salt that I was talking about, and incorporate all of that. So it's always the same steps for almost all recipes that you do for baked goods, is get all of your dry ingredients mixed together, and then all of your wet ingredients go in. So now we're gonna do the same thing here. Dig out the center. Now all of our wet ingredients go right into the center. You can also mix these ahead of time, but you're gonna mix everything together anyway. We get our eggs into there. Be careful with the shells, but also if you get a shell into there, it's not gonna kill anyone. And melted butter. So that's also why it's very important to have it melted but not hot, because you don't want it to just start basically cooking the eggs the second that it touches them. Now we just mixed all of our wet ingredients together. And we just want to start scraping down the sides here. So we can really get everything incorporated with each other. Now also, if you have a stand mixer, this would be much easier to just doing that. But you can also get the job done by hand. Now everything's mixed together pretty loosely. Now we can get into there with our hands. At this point, if you're using a stand mixer, get your dough hook on. You want to kind of knead everything together. Incorporate it. You're going to smell that yeast really activating now. So what we're doing here is we're forming the glutens by working it and kneading it. Just want to keep going with that. It's going to get a little bit sticky, so have a little thing of flour just off to the side. You can kind of just dust your hands in. And if it's feeling like it's too wet, you can always add some more flour to it. Just don't go crazy, add a little bit at a time. I mean, we could even take this out onto a table surface. Really just keep kneading it. But if you're doing this, just set a timer, because it's very easy to overwork the dough. So you want to do this for, I mean, maximum 5 minutes. But if you start to feel like the dough's coming together, you're done mixing. What we want to do next is we're going to spray down the bowl that the dough came from. And then we're going to cover it with plastic wrap and then let it rise up. So we're getting to the stage that we kind of want to be in. So as you're kneading it, you'll start to notice when you get to this stage, as you can see, it almost has like a spider web. That will be the gluten that's actually forming on it. So once you've kneaded it to that point, you'll flip it over, get that seam on the bottom, and then just close up that seam. It's just like that. Close it up. And then we want that going down. Now, as it starts to proof, what happens is the yeast is gonna eat off of the sugars and everything like that. Once the yeast starts feeding, because it is a living microorganism, once it starts feeding, then the byproduct of the yeast is the gas that it releases. That's what actually helps all these breads and stuff to rise. So you want to trap that air on the inside and seal it all up so that it can start to expand and rise up and hopefully be the size of this bowl by the time we're done with it. So what we want to do is we want to keep it there. Let's cover it with plastic wrap. And, you know, depending on, you want it in a warm place, get it like 20-30 minutes. You want it to at least double in size. Don't let it get too big, otherwise you'll get really, really airy cinnamon rolls. So let's cover this up and then let's tuck it somewhere warm. So while we have that proofing, let's move on to all of our other stuff. This is pretty easy stuff. So we want to take our cinnamon sugar, just get that into the bowl, and then full cup of melted butter. Just going to give that Now, you don't even have to mix this together. You could do it in 2 steps where you pour your melted butter over your cinnamon roll dough and then you sprinkle it with the cinnamon sugar. But this kind of helps. I mean, everything's going to be even, more evenly distributed. It just makes it easier if you have the time while you're waiting for everything to rise up. So, leave that like that. Get rid of that. Then our next one is 8 ounces of cream cheese. We're going in with the butter. Now we also want our cream cheese to be room temperature as well, so that it's a little bit easier to mix. Put in just a touch of vanilla. Now let's get both of these combined. And now, don't put all the confectioner's sugar in right away. It'll be very, very hard to mix everything together and also to keep everything in the bowl. Let's get the rest into there. That's what you're looking for. It's this nice, silky smooth. Now you could also, if you don't want it that thick, you could kind of thin it down with a little bit of milk, maybe some more cream. But this also, the second this touches a warm cinnamon roll, it kind of melts all on its own. There we have it. So now we are ready for that. Now let's just wait another 10-15 minutes. Let our dough rise up and then we can get back to it. Here we have it. Took us about 25 minutes, but nice, light, fluffy. It's doubled in size. So what we want to do, let's get a floured surface going. Get your rolling pin out. We are going to roll this bad boy out. So, let's get it out. Get a rolling pin. Get a little flour dusted on top of there. Kind of push it down. Now you're going to want to do a rectangle out of this. So start from the center, roll out. Start from the center, roll towards you. And we want to take it from the center out, center back, center out, center back. Now, you might have to adjust it like I'm going to, just so we could get it more towards the center. And let's do the exact same thing, but now it's a little bit wider than the actual rolling pin. So we're gonna section it into basically 4 quadrants, doing the same thing. Just bring it back. Make sure we don't spill that. I want to get everything nice and even. So just go like that. Kind of pull everything, make it really, really nice rectangle. And once you feel like the thickness is pretty good, now you want to get a dozen cinnamon rolls out of this. So I feel some spots. If I can get rolled out just a little bit more. Now you're not looking to go paper thin on this. There you go. Beautiful. Before you put the filling on, I'm going to kind of just grab the edges. What I'm going to do is roll it back like that. Put a little bit more flour so that nothing sticks. Right back out. By doing this, you're ensuring that you get cinnamon filling everywhere before you run out. Make sure you get your rubber scraper and just get all that goodness out. And now, simply just want every single centimeter of this thing covered in that goodness. Nice and even. And go broad strokes. Really, you just imagine that you're in your little Zen garden with your sand. You just make sure it's on every little place. Okay, you can go all the way out to the very, very edge. I mean, what is a cinnamon roll without cinnamon? All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now comes the part where we actually make it into a roll. So I'm gonna grab your two bottom edges here and just start the fold. Just flip it over, tuck that edge in. It's going to be nice and easy to roll out. And then if you have that tucked in, it should be fairly easy to just roll it out. And this is how we're creating all of those spun layers on the inside of the cinnamon roll. And now it has momentum behind it. So now you can really just go like that. You don't need it super, super tight because this dough is going to expand. We're gonna do another proof on it before we bake it off. So it'll expand one more time in the final rise, and then it will also expand as it's cooking. Bam. Right. Now when you get to this stage, let's get our oven going. We want it at 375. Let's start preheating that. Now, as I said, we want to get this into a dozen rolls. So first thing that we're going to do is try to aim right for the center of it. So you can get a ruler out, or you could just kind of cut it in half. See how well you did. It's fairly good. So now we have it in half. Now we want both of these pieces to be in 2 6s. So we cut it in half one more time. And now we just have to get these 4 pieces into 3 each. So, like I said, these are going to be some pretty big cinnamon rolls. And they already have the height. I'm going to do the same thing with that. And now, I'm going to kind of arrange them. Like I said, they're going to expand a little bit more. So let's give them a little bit of room to expand. That should just about do it. Now let's do the same thing. Let's get plastic wrap on top of this. Let's let it rise up and proof. Maybe another 20 minutes. Depends on how hot of a surface you're putting it near. So I'm gonna put it right on the vent where the heat shoots out of the oven. So it should make this rise fairly fast. So just keep an eye on it. All right, our second proofing is done. So we'll see some of the ones that are a little bit too tall, just kind of press down so that they go out instead of up. But you want this, it's like a nice spongy texture to all of them now. So give them all a little press down. They are gonna expand up. So now we put it in, check it after 20 minutes. We'll see where we're at. Now these are fresh out of the oven. And so it's a good thing that we spaced them out this way. As you can see, they exploded in size. So, you can even take this one right now. Drop it on there. Put a fresh dollop of cream cheese frosting. Just let the warmth of the cinnamon roll kind of loosen up the frosting a little bit more. And then that is it. So you could eat this now. Whatever you don't eat, just wrap up, throw it right into the fridge, or you could even freeze it. It's a really good thing if you have surprise in-laws coming into town and you have to have them for breakfast. Perfect thing to have in your freezer. And I am going to enjoy this now, and I will see you guys next time.